Ouija 2. Well, it's a lot better than the first movie, and to let you know how much I hated the first movie, here's a clip of my original movie review from 2014. Here it goes.
Now first let me say this, the only reason I'm reviewing this movie is so you guys don't waste your time and money paying to see this piece of garbage. Just take your $9, drive down to Walmart and buy Hocus Pocus on DVD and watch that for Halloween. I assure you, that movie is scarier than this one.
Just thinking about it gives me a sour taste in my mouth and makes my blood boil. Alright, so now let's talk about Ouija 2. Ouija 2, Origin of Evil is a prequel movie that takes place in the 1960s. A widowed mother and her two daughters run a seance scam business, and evil, bad shit happens. Now, like I just said, this movie takes place in the 1960s, and there's just something about period era horror films pre-1980s that creeps the living shit out of me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the clothing, the interior designs, just something about old stuff scares me. Have you ever seen an old piano? Tell me that doesn't send chills down your spine. And also, here's the other thing with period era horror films. It's pre-smartphones, it's pre-computers, it's pre-internet. You can't just pick up your phone. Okay, I gotta call 911. By the way, Google, what does it mean when evil spirits come out of my Ouija board? This movie's directed by Mike Flanagan, who also directed Oculus a few years ago. And as far as his directing style goes, I thought it really worked. My light, why does I always kick my light switch? Look at that, I kick it and it turns off. If I had a Ouija board right now, I'd be scared. But as far as the visuals and directing style of Ouija 2 goes, I thought it was phenomenal. It really fit the tone and style of the 1960s, and he even filmed it like a 1960s film, somewhat. And everything from the retro Universal Studios opening logo from the 1960s or 70s had a very grungy feel to it. The bold text in the beginning of the movie. In this movie, you have a mother and her two daughters. One's a teenager, one's a younger kid, and you like them. They feel like a real family with real issues and real humanity, and they had substance behind them. I really liked all three characters. And I feel like some of the acting ability on some of these actresses' parts actually elevated the movie, and the child actress in this film who plays Doris, well, she really sold me, because when it comes to kid actors in movies, I usually don't like them. But the best example I can give you is she did for this movie what Haley Joel Osment did for The Sixth Sense. Two child actors in creepy ass movies that made you buy into the story. Now, much like movies, what scares you is very subjective, and it's a personal taste and a personal preference. And there are things in this movie that creep me out. There's a basement scene, there's shadows, there's old houses. But the way that this movie presents those things and delivers them to you as a viewer, I felt like it kept holding back. Every time I felt like I was on the edge of my seat, it would just stop. And with all that said, I guess the biggest question now is this movie scary? And I would say, not really. What I'm saying is I wanted to stay in a heightened sense of terror. And this movie almost didn't want the viewers to do that. And I don't know if you were trying to cater to a family demographic that wanted to go see a scary movie with a PG-13 rating. And I assure you, I'm not saying that because this movie's PG-13. There's another PG-13 movie that I absolutely love and scares the shit out of me. Throughout this movie, every time something terrifying or eerie starts to happen, the movie doesn't really build to it. It just lets go way too quick, and it lets you breathe way too soon as a viewer. And I didn't like that. And here's my biggest complaint with Ouija 2. During the halfway point of the movie, you get a full look at the tormented, demonized character in the film. You get to see what this thing looks like. When you see this demonized creature, there's a lot of CG elements, and this is a movie that takes place in the 1960s. It has that vibe, that tone, that atmosphere, and they completely ruined it and took you out of it with this shitty CGI thing. It almost felt like the movie blew its load a little too quick, because what they should have done is build up to that character a little bit more and kept it in the shadows a little bit longer. Ouija 2 is a competent, well-made, well-directed, and well-acted horror film. It's pretty good. It's solid. I can understand why people really like this movie. But at the end of the day, Ouija 2 is nothing new that you haven't already seen before. It doesn't have any new elements in it that are original. It takes things that have already been done before, but better, and put it into this movie. And the most frustrating thing is, when I was watching this movie, there were moments, there were scenes where I'm like, okay, if they just go for it, this is gonna be terrifying. And the movie always sort of just held back right when it could have done that. I'm going to give Ouija 2, It is a very friendly Halloween movie to go see with the family. It doesn't go too over the top. There's no blood, guts, or gore, and it probably won't give kids nightmares for months on end like Nightmare on Elm Street did for me when I watched it in my grandparents' basement back in 1993. Big sisters, they will ruin your life. So anyway, guys, that's my take on Ouija 2. Now here's my question to you, and let me know down below, what'd you guys think about the movie? Or what is your favorite time period horror film of all time? Like a movie that takes place pre-1990. And as usual, make sure you subscribe. That way I can see you next time.